I have to wait a whole year to see more Baby Yoda? So, this is it. This is the last episode of The Mandalorian of season 1, that is. I do fully plan on releasing a spoiler season review later in the week, so be on the lookout for that, because this one is going to be, per tradition, non-spoiler, which is going to be really, really hard because there's some big things that happen in this episode that are going to be kind of difficult to talk about without actually saying them by name. Now, first things first, Baby Yoda is okay. We'll just say that right out the gates, because if I don't, it's going to be really hard to talk about this episode. But Baby Yoda's okay. The same can't be said for everybody else, but Baby Yoda's all right. And this episode was titled Redemption. And at the beginning, you don't really know where they're going to go with that in terms of who is being redeemed. Is it Mando? Is it another character? Is it the villain? We don't know. Now, in a way, that term serves a lot of different purposes. I do believe that Mando goes through a redemption of sorts, and he gets that proven and actually that redemption somewhat branded on him in a sense, because he comes full circle in a way. In the beginning of the show, he was the predator and Baby Yoda was basically the prey, though we've seen Baby Yoda's talents thus far and even more so in this episode, and I don't know if that really would have worked out. But still, now Mando is kind of taking over the de facto father role, and that's once again acknowledged in this episode, of course, and it's good to see. It really is. Now, of course, Baby Yoda has his really cute moments. He serves his purpose with the Force as well. There isn't much explanation regarding Baby Yoda, I will say, and I don't think I'm disappointed by that because this episode lands on such a heavy, hard note in terms of, everything does feel like it comes together for a first season. Now, I don't think that they really needed to go into the lore for Baby Yoda. I don't think they needed to give him a name for his species. I don't think they really needed to go into full detail with Baby Yoda and why his purpose is, because now that we know we're getting a season 2 and that Mando and Baby Yoda are going to once again be traveling the galaxy together, and we're going to kind of, I'm assuming, go through the same format where there's a general big plot, but there's a lot of one-off single Monster of the Week-esque episodes in a way. But what I'm saying is that this finale lands on such a great note because of the build-up that we've had thus far, as well as kind of getting to know each of the characters. Kara has a great part in this. Greef has a great part in this. IG-11 has a great part in this. There's so much personality brought to the table, and it does make you want more ensemble moments in this show, and it was very found family in a sense. I thought the humor hit really well. The action was amazing in this episode. They once again utilized the 501st Legion for this episode because there are so many stormtroopers everywhere. I thought that the way that they continue right off from where episode 7 left off, and there's a lot of emotional outcome from that. Everybody kind of trusts each other a little bit more in this episode, which is neat. We learn more about each of these individual characters. We get a name for Mando as well as more flashbacks for him. Kara, we get a little bit on her. There's a really important detail that I want to talk about in my spoiler review that I think Kara's character has so much potential, and also potential to be expanded outside of this show in regards to either comics or books or etc., because there's a huge part of her backstory I think that could really easily tie in to another character that I'm really excited about. Greef becomes a lot more likable, I felt. IG-11, he's really, really cool. I'm still fine with him not being IG-88. I don't know. I didn't need that. I thought that the fact that he is an IG droid was enough of an homage, but also making it its own thing in a way. And I didn't feel like this episode spent too much time being like, we're just trying to set up for season 2. I thought it was very fluid, and it made a lot of sense where we end, because this standoff sort of had to be what happened, because it wouldn't have been as cohesive. It had to happen, whether they liked it or not. And we kind of faced that in episode 7, but the turnout of it is in episode 8. And the new villain, he's Moff Gideon, which we saw him in last week's episode. He is really cool. He gives you some serious Empire vibes. And I really think that he is a very formative villain, you know. I think that he's something that I wouldn't want to go up against necessarily because, you know, we don't really get that much exposure to the Moffs aside from Grand Moff Tarkin or anything like that, and what it's like post-Empire. I mean, I know that in the Battlefront 2 game they do have kind of a regiment and everything like that, and they try to cling on to the Empire and stuff. The war doesn't just end with Endor, and that's a really cool thing that I think this show has the potential to explore from the small scope of The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. I will discuss Mando's name and everything like that in the spoiler seasonal review, which is basically going to be like an expanded overview of everything that we've already seen. The big thing in the end of this episode, aside from how cool the action sequence is, it's just this it's a fight like we haven't seen before, but it totally fits in with the scope of this show and how it feels. And it opens up so much opportunity for another season in a way, you know, like we don't leave off with this, like we're given closure, but we're not given this definitive, okay, the story's over here. We're definitely led up for another season, but it also feels like we've come full circle. This narrative has been told for this season. But there, we see an artifact in the end of this episode that we have not seen in a long time. And I have a lot of questions about why it's back and how it's going to be used, and it just ties in so much with previous lore that we've seen, and I'm very excited. You know, I've had a lot of questions this whole season in regards to why the Mandalorian culture is so different and if this is just a sector type of thing, and I think we're finally going to get some answers in season 2, which it's good that we didn't get all the answers here because then there would not be a season 2. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. May the Force be with you. Have a great day. Or what the big purpose is for Baby Yoda. Did you just hear my shoulder crack? And I don't this